My Boyhood Record Store.
Okay. Boyhood Records.
Boyhood Records. 2395 Glendale Boulevard, Rockaway Records. Have you been there before?
No.
I've never dragged you there before?
Is it still there?
It's still there.
Okay, no.
Spoiler alert, it's still there. Rockaway Records was a product of two brothers, Gary and Wayne.
Clyde and Glenn Rockaway.
Gary and Wayne Johnson, who began selling records in the late 70s after being regulars at the legendary Capitol Records parking lot record swap meets.
Oh, okay.
Which we talked about in
we
the
did.
Obvious Landmarks episode when we covered Capitol. It was where skinny thugs and junkies and weirdos would meet, and they would later form punk bands like the Skinny Thugs, the Junkies, and the Weirdos. Only one of those bands is a real punk band. Wayne and Gary had collected records as a hobby for some time, going to any garage sale or yard sale or swap meet and leaving.
What, they didn't shop at Wallach's? They're part of the problem. Punks.
Out there, shaking hands with weird people who
Out
have
there,
trunks open.
Pretending nails are earrings.
Yeah, they go to any place that was selling records, and they would leave with a crate of anything, records or anything music related. Wayne was an electronic technician at this point, and he was noticing that his brother and his little hobby in quotes, of collecting records was becoming like a full second job. They then decided to switch it up and start selling their wares at the Capitol Records swap meet. And from that point on, they knew what they wanted to do.
The student has become the master
Exactly.
of Star Wars. I gotta see it.
But I gotta go right now. What do you think's happening here right now?
What do you think Ray's doing?
You think BB-8's being cute right now? I
You think Baby Yoda's in this one? See, he's still alive.
I would die for Baby Yoda. Anyways, so they wanted to open up a shop of their own. The brothers knew they were destined for this job because they had a knack for finding not only hard to find...
For finding the knack.
They had a knack for finding not only hard to find records, but gems they refer to as...
Gems and the holograms.
They were good at finding Beatles under their car.
They were certainly no Rolling Stone.
Okay, they were good at finding hard to find albums. There's probably a better way to say that. I don't know how to say it. They also
we
could find...
cancel double negative. They were good at albums.
They were really lucky when it came to what they call records no one would play, which were like rare collectibles. Like in their collection, they had a rare mint Beatles 45 that cost $8,000. They scored at a swap meet.
That's the dream. The ultimate dream is on the B side. It's a recording of the signing of the Declaration of Independence. That's the dream.
And they like one of the words is misspelled on there. Independence is spelled wrong, so then it's like it's like more collectible.
And then they say, "Oh, sorry for screwing this one up. We'll tape this baseball card of that one guy from Pittsburgh on this, and we'll mail it to you with that upside down plane stamp. I hope that's not a problem. Sincerely, Joan of Arc."
Okay, so they would buy these things with no intention of listening to it, like the Beatles record. They just wanted to collect it. Their lives became buying, selling, and hoarding records.
When was this?
Late 70s, early 80s. Their lives became buying and selling and hoarding records to the point where the house in Brea they lived in was more of like a record storage facility with beds. Their records took up the whole house. Records in the bedroom, records in the kitchens, records in the closet. But one day they'll be brave enough and trusting enough to come out.
I'm sorry, I stepped on that. What I had to say is records for supper time.
I'm glad that you got that one.
I got messed up. I'm
all messed up. All that brown noise in my brain. From here, they began a mail order business, pre-internet mail order business. It baffles me. From here, they began a mail order business from their own and hired their very first employee. So things were becoming real, and the operation was moving along. But then they realized they needed a retail space that they also didn't live in.
What's the problem?
I don't understand. Chinese restaurants do it all the time. What's upstairs? Oh, I see a bed up there. Oh, you woke somebody up to serve me water? Talk about food chow, because man, that guy did not want to serve me water that time.
Oh, come on. Food upstairs and food chow is where the Chinese gangs hang out. That obviously, and Jackie Chan took him down. Go upstairs and it's a beautiful banquet hall.
It's a penthouse plaza. It's a presidential suite up there.
And you look out the window and you see the Manhattan skyline. Welcome to Food Chow. I hate that place.
In 1982, the two brothers then purchased what was described as a hole-in-the-wall record store owned by Marty Levy called Rainbow Records, which was on Glendale Boulevard closer to Fletcher between Save-On and KFC, which means it was probably next to my childhood barbershop, Tony's, which is somebody tried to bribe him with $1 to leave line for a second to go get some more cash, and he burned the $1.
What?
Yeah, because you don't bribe Tony. This was my boyhood plaza, the one that's on Fletcher and Glendale Boulevard. That's now completely gentrified and has a Whole Foods there. My barbershop was there, 20/20 Video, Baskin Robbins, Round Table.
Nobody gentrifies Tony. He
now,
burned his business down.
He's probably dead now. He's super old. He was super old when I was a kid.
Nobody kills Tony. He burns himself.
So the way it was described in LA Times, Rainbow Records, the way it was described in the LA Times, make it sound like a real hippy-dippy dirtbag shop. In their words, Marty hung out in tie-dye shirts, grooved on loud music, made friends with customers young and old, and altogether presented an endearing model for an unrepentant flower child with a receding hairline who could work the system.
And another thing, he's bald.
Shut this place down.
Not like us from the greatest generation. Hair for miles.
All the recordings are just presidential speeches.
Come down to Wallach's, where you can listen to Nixon's resignation.
God bless you, sir. The brothers bought Rainbow from Levy, and from that original spot opened Rockaway Records, but kept Levy around as a manager and the jazz expert of the new store. Gary came up with a name for Rockaway Records, and much to my pleasure, it was named after one of my favorite Ramones song, Rockaway Beach, which is funny because, okay,
Blitzkrieg Bop.
it was named I Don't Want to Go in the Basement. Anyways, I Want to Be Your Boyfriend.
Talking about songs that are all the same. You put down the Safaris one more time.
I didn't put down the Safaris. I put down everybody but the Safaris, although they are the Ventures.
You put down all the rest of them. You put down all of them because they're the same band.
The Safaris are Clark Kent. The Ventures are Superman. They're the same people, just at night.
No, he's holding his guitar on the left hand. It can't be the same person. His guitar has glasses on.
I like that Dick Dale sounds the same as an entire band of guitar players. What's funny about them calling it Rockaway Beach and naming it after a Ramones song is that from reading articles about Rockaway Records, there's a real obvious preference for the Beach Boys at Rockaway Records, and I've always said that Rockaway Beach was a great Beach Boys song, except it was written and performed by the Ramones.
Yeah, they pretty much are the quote unquote punk.
They're the East Coast Ramones.
Yeah, no, East Coast Beach Boys.
West Coast Ramones are the Beach Boys.
Rockaway Beach, not far from where The Great Gatsby took place, by the way. Welcome to the 20s.
We made it, guys.
We're all moving to the Hamptons. Meet me in Montauk.
You're now quoting Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind.
Yeah, well, it's a metaphor.
Wayne's office is apparently lined with Beach Boys memorabilia, and when they asked in the Silver Lake blog which a musician he grew up idolizing, it was, of course, Brian Wilson, who went crazy. Who's still a little bit crazy.
Who lost his mind with adoration.
Thank you so much for admiring me. I'm going to go into the sandbox in my home that has a piano, and I'm going to not eat for 5 days.
And I'm going to ignore Mama Cass. Yeah.
I'm going to obsessively tap this wall to see the sound it makes for 4 days. The first year of the original location was great.
Meet me in Montauk.
Meet me in Montauk. Meet me in Montauk. Meet me in Montauk. 6 days of that. The first year of the original location was great. So great, in fact, that they were beginning to outgrow that space. They then moved to a former laundromat a few spaces down in the shopping plaza, but not long after that, they lost a lease on that space. So Rockaway was looking for a new home, and the Johnson brothers wanted to and could purchase the space, which is not how you know it's not a story written in 2019. It's because someone bought a property.
People could afford to buy anything. You mean it wasn't a Russian oligarch?
It wasn't a Chinese syndicate?
Wait, it was only two brothers? It was Johnson & Johnson, right?
So there were spots open that they could buy. One of them was on Melrose and the other one was on Ventura, but they were like, those are too expensive, and the brothers didn't want to commute. After some time, the Johnsons landed a spot of a former Latino nightclub called the Cache, which had closed down, which had been a sore subject of the Silver Lake neighbors who hated late night noise and commotion that the Cache brought to the neighborhood. You could relate to that. You are the neighbors.
You know what they should have gotten is a giant brown noise machine.
God forbid people who like that club enjoy themselves.
Well, God forbid I go to bed for one night. You're a sympathizer.
I want to go to bed.
This is the 20s all over again.
So I think they bought Cache and a store or restaurant that was right next door and were able to create a large, with the 2 spaces, a large and new permanent home for Rockaway in 1992, 10 years after opening the original location. So now they are at their new spot where they are now.
Did they close the original one?
Yeah, the original closed down. Now it's probably a hipster bakery. Rockaway Records is a great little record shop that growing up had plenty of vinyl and new and used cassettes, and later had compact discs, new and used, along with used books, which I always found something great at Rockaway. But it seems their main emphasis has always been collectibles. A piece of memorabilia that keeps being brought up in articles is a signed copy from 1964 of the original first album from the Beatles, Please Please Me, which sits in a glass case. That gem there.
Yeah, how much is that worth? And how well guarded is it?
And what is the kind of security system do they have? That record goes for $28,500.
That's it? I feel like it would be more. It's signed by all the Beatles?
No.
Oh. Didn't you say it was signed? Signed by Pete Best.
This was when George Harrison was probably still alive. Every time a Beatle dies, everything goes up in value.
Every time a Beatle dies, an angel gets its wings. Well, yeah, I mean, Paul McCartney got his wings after the Beatles died.
Rockaway also has an original copy of the Beatles Yesterday and Today from 1965, and it's signed by 3 members of the Beatles that weren't shot, although one of them was stabbed. Wayne said that if it had the 4th signature, you can add a 0 to that price tag, which ran at $12,000, which again is pretty, I don't say it's affordable. I'll never have $12,000 in my life. So there's a stereo
Wait
copy.
till more shirts are available.
I don't even get a shirt.
You can't afford it. The next batch is going to cost $30,000 each.
Signed by both the Mickley boys, the one that didn't get shot.
The one that'll still be alive in February.
There's a stereo copy of Free Willy and Bob Dylan, which has 4 songs not released on later copies. There's only 3 of these in the world, and one sold for $40,000. Rockaway has one of those. One Christmas, my mom got me a very nice poster of the Sex Pistols from Rockaway, which I would have paid money to just to see her and go in and ask for it. Altogether,
I'm here for sex.
Pistols. Altogether, the Johnson brothers spent $600,000 on a collection of 100,000 albums from a collector in Hollywood, which Wayne said was their biggest purchase. After word traveled around about this deal, other collectors wanting to unload their collectibles came to Rockaway. People who deal with Rockaway knew the Johnsons to pay fairly, and they knew whatever they sold to them would be safe. It wouldn't be just like thrown in the trash. Cheap used CDs and collectibles is what helped keep Rockaway afloat when so many other music stores, big and small, began to get swallowed up by your Napsters, your LimeWires, your SoulSeeks.
I keep forgetting the name of the program I used, and I think you used too. It was like a knockoff of Napster, because I didn't use Napster. I didn't use anything. I mean, the FBI is still listening to my hair gel. What was the one that was? Can't remember. If you remember, write to us.
Write the songs you downloaded
and give us your IPN and the dates and times that it happened, and write to us directly at confession@fbi.gov.
So of course, early 2000s, everything starts to change because we could just download whatever album/virus that we wanted to. So music stores started to really change at that point. They stopped selling new CDs some years ago when the big stores started to downgrade their CD sections. Little shops couldn't compare, so they doubled down on used CDs, which seemed to no one thought was a good business model, but Amoeba and Rockaway survived because of this. Which Amoeba scared the hell out of Rockaway when they opened because Rhino and Aaron's couldn't compete, but Rockaway managed. And like Amoeba, when the dust settled from the music stores closing, Rockaway benefited. They at some point bought a whole collection from a store in Iowa that had to shut down. They bought 75,000 CDs from this little shop. They have such a good name in collecting fields. But still, streaming music has done another number on the remaining record stores, and according to the Nielsen Sound Scan, which tracks music sales, little independent shops like Amoeba and Rockaway only account for 7% of all album sales, which is half of what it was in 2001.
Seems high.
Now Spotify, iTunes, and Amazon took another a huge blow from small shops, as well as giant stores like Target and Walmart from their meager CD section, which I imagine only sells Katy Perry and Paul McCartney.
Who
buys a CD from Target?
A desperate grandma on Christmas Eve.
My grandson likes Christmas music.
I'll get him Barry Manilow Christmas. Stupid grandma.
Stop buying me stuff from Walmart. Grandma, you can buy me whatever you want. Anytime, I accept it. Independent record shops, like we said, Amoeba, not only offer hard-to-find music that not even Spotify or iTunes has, but there's a communal experience. There's something about being at a Rockaway.
It's almost the same way of how libraries are kind of going.
Yeah.
Where books and stuff, but we're leaning towards communities.
Community centers.
Well, we'll get into it, but Amoeba is you can go see this band. Well, not anymore. Pretty soon, not anymore, but you got to be a scene.
Yep. Exactly. And Rockaway is a scene for collectors. It became a place where
hardcore
music fans went, not just people who want to be seen.
Not just your grandma trying to find Barry Manilow
or trying to find a Rolling Stones album, and all I have is a Rolling Stones cover from a tribute album.
Yeah, Sam Smith tribute album. Yeah. Sam Smith parody band. That's what they're selling at Target.
A box set of Katy Perry. According to LA Times article from 10 years ago about Rockaway, altogether they had at that time 75,000 CDs, 20,000 LPs, 20,000 45s, and 10,000 DVDs, along with thousands of vintage magazines, books, posters, and other pieces of memorabilia. They've also managed to stay in business by becoming landlords and renting some of the spaces on that spot where they had.
How do they feel about loud music late at night? They're not going to help you. These landlords aren't going to do anything.
They're not going to do anything for you. If anything, they're going to be in cahoots, shadow people. That whole plaza there is now called Rockaway Plaza, and they rented portions of what used to be the Rockaway to a yoga studio and a computer repair shop. I think there's also a wine spot right behind them. Rockaway Records now only occupies 35% of its original building, but they're still holding strong. I haven't been there in some time, but Rockaway was for sure
part of the problem.
I don't listen to music anymore.
I can't afford it.
I can't afford it, okay? I just hum tunes
I
that I
read sheet
remember.
music from the library, which is also leaving.
If there's a movie I'm watching and it has music, that's the only music I'm listening to.
It's like people who could only get their news from the newsreels before seeing a movie. I gotta find out how World War I ended.
I gotta buy a ticket to the Shadow of the Thin Man so I could figure out what's happening in the trench, even though that's 20 years ago. I don't understand history.
I gotta see who shot Tupac. I gotta go see the Cabinet of Dr. Caligari.
I haven't been there in some years, but Rockaway was for sure the first record shop that I loved. My mom would take me to kill time and pick up CDs or tapes from my uncle and brother. We would treat ourselves and just during summer vacation would just stop at Rockaway. It was where I rummaged and found weird things with weird covers and gave it a try. When I first started getting more independent, I would walk 2 miles between my house and Rockaway, staring at buses trying to figure out how they worked because I didn't know. I have a real love and fondness for Rockaway, and I'm glad Amoeba didn't destroy it, although it seems like gentrification might.
If the amoebas don't kill you.
The microbreweries will.